All right. Everybody ready?
Yes.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. This is Earl from NSAA. Thank you for making the time to join us for another in our series of communications and kind of really preparations going into the coming season. Communication is extraordinarily important regardless of season, but probably even more so this season as areas are looking to create the best possible experience for your guests, for your staff, and your communities too, under very different and you could say difficult circumstances going into the season. And I want to welcome our panel here. I'm going to hand it off in a second to Scott Belter with Ascent360. But I first want to recognize Ascent, Scott, and Heather. Go ahead and advance, Scott, as our session sponsor. And really, I want to recognize them as thought leaders and partners in this webinar. They've been really great about bringing ideas to the table about what they're hearing, what they're seeing, what they're gleaning from their conversations with their partner resorts, and bringing those ideas to us as potential webinar topics. And so far, they've been spot on. This is the second with Ascent, and I really want to recognize their support for education and helping NSAA bring great content to you, our members. Go ahead and advance, Scott. So before I hand it over, just a couple of quick housekeeping slides. I want to point out the disclaimer at the top of this slide. Really, everybody that is participating is doing this voluntarily and of their own free will, trying to help you, their peers around the industry, be ready and be prepared for the coming season. This is being recorded and will be available on the NSAA site behind the member login. If you're a non-member and are interested in becoming a member, reach out to Paige Vickerman at pvickerman@nsaa.org, and she can show you how to join. Next slide. And just a couple of housekeeping items about how to participate. If you are an attendee and would like to ask questions, you can either use the raise hand function in the participant list, or you can use the chat function within Zoom. This is probably the most efficient, and just to be clear, your chat will go to the panelists and to us as NSAA, and as questions are asked, what we will either do is interject them into the discussion if they're relevant to the topic at hand, or we may, some of us may save them towards the end of the webinar. And again, the webinar recording will be made available after this on nsaa.org. And with that, I would like to hand it over to Scott Belter, President and CEO of Ascent360, to kick us off. Scott?
Excellent. Thanks so much, Earl. I really appreciate it. Glad everybody can join. I think it's probably best to just start with some introductions. What I'd ask is, Barb, Scott, and Greg, if you could introduce yourself in turn, and also talk a little bit about your resort. Where you're located, what sort of amenities and where you draw guests from, those sorts of things. So, Barb, please kick us off.
Hi, everybody. Glad you could all join today. Blue Mountain's located about an hour and a half west of New York City and an hour and a half north of Philadelphia. We've gotten up to 15,000 visitors a day. That's not going to be happening this year, and that's why I think this series on communication and how to communicate is going to be just critical how we execute on our communication plans. We have 50% beginners, so they've never even been to a resort. They don't even know, putting booths and everything on it's going to be a very, very challenging year. We went all online for ticketing and rentals and lessons 48 hours ahead of time. I think it was the only way we were going to be able to even begin to manage the number of people. Really concerned of how we're going to turn people away to not come into the parking lots without creating traffic jams on the roadways. I think that's our latest discussions, but it's been an interesting year, and you know, fortunately, we do summer operations, mountain biking and glamping, and you know, weddings and things, and we've gone through and you know, have all the kind of COVID things on our website, and you know, have had you know, had to track employees, had to track guests already, and we've gotten over some of those hurdles as a result.
Great, thanks, Barb. Scott?
Yeah, nice to see everyone. Scott Pellegrini, Bolton Valley Resort. We are 30 minutes from Burlington, Vermont, northern Vermont, ensconced in a bunch of other really big ski areas. We're kind of a small to medium sized resort, I would say, and really cater to the regional drive market more than anything. Down to Boston, 3 hours on the highway, up to Montreal. Not this year, maybe, unless they open that border, but under 2 hours to Montreal, pretty much all highway. So drive market's really strong, and then you know, Burlington Airport just 30 minutes away. So a little bit of fly to, small hotel, night skiing, learn to ski and ride is huge for us. Going back 60 years with putting in the night lights so that we could unload school buses, area school buses, Tuesday to Friday afternoons, teach as many kids to ski and ride as we possibly can. I'm proud to say we're upwards of 50,000, if not closer to 100, in the nearby rural counties of just teaching people to ski and ride. So pretty proud of that. The people who built the mountain recently repurchased it. So some of you may know the Delorier family. We're proudly independent, locally owned and operated, and also owned by the founding family. So Ralph built the mountain in the 60s, operated to the 90s, and then a few owners over about a 20-year period. And then 3 years ago now, Ralph and his son Evan rebought the mountain with local investors. And now his daughter Lindsay is our president, really the leader of the organization, and Adam Delorier as well, heading up our pretty innovative backcountry program growth. And Lindsay's leading our mountain bike program growth in the summertime, and trying to transition to a year-round resort. So proud to have gotten some of the COVID complications, a nice dry run of it over this past summer. If we were still kind of closed down in the summer, I think we'd be a lot more scared of winter, but we've got a lot of small victories under our belt with events and gatherings. So feeling good going into the winter.
Great, thanks, Scott. Greg?
Good morning. Angel Fire Resort is located in northwest New Mexico. We're about half hour outside of Taos. Our markets are primarily Texas. We draw out of Amarillo, is about a 4-hour drive. Dallas is probably 8, Houston 12. And Texans have no problem getting in a car and going for a 12-hour drive. They need to drive that far just to get out of Texas. So our skiers are, it's interesting, our skiers are more winter vacationers than I would say skiers. We also run a high percentage of beginners, do a lot of rentals, a lot of lessons, children's centers very busy. A lot of people are bringing their family here to see the snow for the first time. In some respects, skiing may be an activity they take advantage of while they're here. We also have night skiing, big tubing center, sledding, sleigh rides, all the other winter activities to keep those skiers busy while they're here. And we are a unique resort in some ways that we're all on private land. And with that, it's a lot of our homeowners are considered members, and they pay an HOA fee that gives them access to lift tickets and skiing and season passes. We have a high alpine championship golf course that they all get to golf on. We have a lake with fishing and paddle boarding and those kind of things, so they get to take advantage of those things. And our mountain bike park is known as one of the best in North America. So we've got a strong, while we may not draw the hardcore skiers in the winter, we draw the hardcore mountain bikers in the summer. And with that, we've learned some lessons through operating in the summer that we'll be looking forward to applying as we roll into winter. We're still waiting a little bit for government regulations and information from our health department and our governor's office on how will we be allowed to operate and what capacities we'll be able to have. So it's going to be an interesting time in the next few months, but that in a nutshell is sort of what Angel Fire Resort is.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Greg. So let's go ahead and dive right in. This is going to be a panel discussion, and on some level, Zoom is almost made perfect for this, right? We've got a lot of people on this call right now from all over the country, and here we can actually gather 3 really experienced people together to kind of dig through this core idea, right? And that core idea is, let's discuss how we're planning on reopening, but more so, how are we going to communicate with guests about it? How are we going to ensure that they know the things that we think we need to tell them, with the goal of, like, how do we ensure their safety, and how do we make sure they know the plan? How do we open the mountain to as many guests as possible when there might be some facilities on the mountain that just won't support large numbers? How do we worry about law compliance? Ultimately, let's make sure this year is a success from a revenue and profitability perspective. And ultimately, the title of this is Keep the Stoke Alive. So let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can see us all better. And I think the first thing that we really want to talk about is, let's just get a little bit of an overview of your plans for reopening, and that is, what's changing on the mountain. Will you be requiring reservations? Are you in a place where you're going to be closing ticket windows? Will people be able to buy at the mountain? Those sorts of things. So let's maybe just jump in one by one. Scott, why don't you kick us off there with some of the things that you're going to be changing?
Sure. Yeah, we've really invested pretty heavily in technology, frankly, in the off season, if you will, focusing for the bigger winter visitation here. For us, we pretty quickly identified, there's kind of a cycle to this whole thing. We were all kind of in shock and awe, I think, back in March and April, when we suddenly had to turn the lifts off almost overnight. And there was a big kind of reach out to our current pass holders and guests to sort of communicate with them pretty heavily through that period. And we pretty quickly recognized, those people are really our evangelists, our ambassadors, sort of our best network of people that can help us make this winter a success. And they have the most stake in the game. I mean, they want us to be open this winter. They want everyone to be safe. They want everyone to have a nice time. And so we really pretty quickly, recognized that them, along with our kind of our core team that's here year round, and our supervisors, we really just need to all basically say, we need your help. We need your help communicating all these ever-changing policies. I mean, we all have our own realities in our states. Vermont, right from the start, was pretty restrictive and really limited hotels and cross-state travel, and that continues to today. And distancing is really important here, and face coverings, and I think there's a varying degree around the country around that. But so really, we need our season pass holders at least to really step up and help us sort of communicate and make sure that we can provide a safe experience in the winter. The big thing we did with technology was to, we're trying to transition from the vast majority of our day-to-day sales, ticket sales, rental equipment, ski school. Traditionally here at Bolton Valley, the vast majority, 70 to 80% of the unit volume is done over the counter or over the phone with a human being. For obvious reasons, we kind of need to break that cycle just overnight. Part of that's an exciting opportunity, right? Because these are things we wanted to do for the longer term. It's just kind of pushing that timeline, and they're going to serve us for the longer term. But pretty much overnight, we had to figure out, okay, how do we transition from no rentals done online to 80 to 90% of the rentals done online, intake form for sizing, pick up as quickly as possible, as little human interaction as possible, outside as much as possible. Same with ski school. We had more bookings online with that, but managing that staff inventory, pre-bookings, ticket sales, don't come stand over the counter, get it in advance, come here, pick it up at a pickup box, don't even have to interact with a human being. You already have the RFID card. Thank goodness we put in the gates last winter just in time. Reload your card. You don't need a ticket. Just reload your card online, go straight from your car to the lift. and try and minimize those sort of face-to-face interactions. So yeah, we're trying to transition from like 20% over the counter to like 80 to 90%. Or I'm sorry, 20% online to like 80 to 90% online, and skip the counter this winter, which is the main goal.
Yeah, but Barb, you were actually telling me before we started today that you had a somewhat similar experience in the summer with, first of all, bike park pass holders, as well as a sort of similar experience of moving almost everything to full-time online. Oh, you're muted, Barb.
Yeah, we have been investing in technology for quite a while. So, I think we're at 60% of our sales were already online in rental, lesson, and everything. So this year, what we're going to do is if somebody comes up and they haven't bought anything, we're gonna give them some instructions. Please go back to your car, go buy online. We have the internet service boosted everywhere so that people can do that, so that they can go through the regular process. I mean, I think the thing that got me as we went through this whole process of what are we going to do this winter, all these special programs that we had, our one-day groups, our school groups, our resellers, any retail resellers, hotel resellers, all of that basically has been shut down this year because they have to go ahead and buy the ticket online. We also did 4-hour tickets and 8-hour tickets. We are a day trip place, as an hour and a half from about 30 million people. So, we have 50% of our, people from the past, we've noted that they ski less than 4 hours. So we have this 4-hour ticket and we expect that's going to help us turn our parking lot. And one of the things on SAM this past week or last week was, this chart of when everybody comes, it's like, they come at 9, 10, 11, and then, 2 or 3 o'clock, no one's showing up for anything. And, the more you can go ahead and sell online and keep inventory of tickets, I'm only selling so much of the 9 and 10 session. I think it's going to be key for at least us to go ahead and keep our visitation up, but actually spread it all out. And, if you take a look at the chart, I mean, there's so much room to go ahead and do that if we get the messages right, or if we get the pricing right. Last year we went out with dynamic pricing. So if you come on a Monday afternoon at 1 o'clock, you're going to get a pretty cheap ticket. If you come on a holiday weekend at 1 o'clock, it's, or 9 o'clock in the morning, it's going to be the most expensive. So that I think is going to help with trying to spread the crowd and keep everybody kind of safe. But getting back to what Scott said, our season pass holders, we love them, and at the same time they can really carry a positive message, and they're our most loyal customers. But if you don't bring them into what we're doing and get their feedback, they can turn on you. So the sooner we can communicate. We just finished up with taking a video, sort of like Killington did, Micah Killington, to basically send out to all our season pass holders. And as part of that communication, we're probably going to say, and if you want to join a town hall, we'd be glad to answer any of your questions. I mean, I think communication is going to be just so key in all this. You can invest in all the technology you want, but if you haven't explained how your RFID tickets work well, or you haven't gotten everybody kind of bought into how it's going to work, it's an uphill battle then.
Yep. So Barb, you also mentioned the other day that you're doing some kind of innovative things to figure out and forecast how you're going to price, and I think you said you're going to kind of create a base of known pass holders and then you'll have some kind of variable pricing based on visitation that you've seen historically.
Right. So we basically know from our RFID over the last 7 years how our season pass holders come to the resort when they come. Based on that data, we're going to have our 4-hour ticket and 8-hour ticket pools adjusted so that the season pass holders can come. I think to do reservations just seemed anti of season pass holders. You're supposed to give them the special love and the special, and then all of a sudden to do reservations to me just didn't seem to be the way to do it. So we're just going to make our 4-hour and 8-hour ticket inventory pools very, very to adjust for those season pass holders and when they come.
Yeah.
They usually come at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday and they leave at 11. So,
Yep.
They don't ski the whole day.
So Greg, I know you've actually had a pretty robust summer, and you've already been experiencing a lot of this kind of reopening challenge. And I'm wondering, would you speak a little bit to what you did experience, what you changed, and then maybe some of how you actually were communicating to the guests around those changes.
Okay, we came out of the winter very fearful, looking at our summer operation. How do we regulate the number of mountain bikers, the scenic sky chair? How do we control social distancing? How do we comply with all the health department regulations? And we learned a lot. Signage seemed to be key.
Yeah.
We had signage that showed spacing. We had signage that showed spacing in the lift lines. The good thing about cyclists and skiers, they have gear that somewhat keeps them apart, but we needed to extend those areas and put in visual reminders. We made sure we were visually out there sanitizing the chair and spraying it down as it's coming back into the terminal, making those efforts for the contact type of disease. All our staff was masked up, and that was a challenge in some regards. Getting compliance even internally with staff sometimes was an issue. We took our ticketing and waivers. We do get a signed waiver from all mountain bikers, and we took it all online. There were signs posted around the resort. Check your, put your phone over this QR code. It'll pull up a waiver link. Please fill out that waiver before you come to the mountain, whether you've got a season pass or purchasing a day ticket or whatever you need. We'd like to get as much done online prior to showing up. And the plexiglass goes up everywhere, and the spacing went everywhere from the front lobby of the hotel to the ticket office at the bottom of the chair. And then the bike park for the demos, we have a pretty big demo fleet, 80 to 100 bikes, and they were out all summer. Our volume was strong enough that they were being rented and put out. And we rent body armor and full face helmets, and the full face helmets were brought back in and sanitized. The good thing is we have had no issues. We've learned a lot. Now it's going to be applying that to a less sophisticated market. The mountain bikers know the resort. They know they need a bike. They know they're going to ride up the chair. They know how it works. A lot of our first timers and our winter visitors don't even know what they need. They just want to go skiing. And what's a lift ticket? Does it have, what am I renting? So there's a lot of those barriers, and our rental shop is a big pinch point. It needed to be remodeled 5 years ago. So we're going to have that issue. We're looking at expanding outside areas, adding tents, heaters, those kind of things to give us that space to try to do that. But it's going to be a challenge for us to get those people to purchase everything online. The good thing is most of our winter visitors are staying with us. And in the past, they bought maybe lodging with us, purchased their rentals with us, gotten their lift tickets with us, or they realize that Costco may be a cheaper lift ticket, so they got their lift tickets at Costco. But we too are shutting down our third-party resellers because we can't control the capacity. We don't know what's going to come in from Costco on any given day, and we need to at least have some ability to control our products through online sales and those things. We do foresee having ticket windows open for live sales. We don't get overwhelmed on weekends. We don't have a big, obviously December 26th through 31st is our big Christmas rush, and we'll be busy during those times. But we've done what we can there. The state of New Mexico has a safe certification program that they've encouraged all businesses to go through, where they train employees, they check your signage, they look at your operating plan and those kind of things. So we've gotten New Mexico State Safe certified. We'll be using that to try to give people the confidence when they're looking at booking a ski vacation that Angel Fire will provide a good environment, good healthy environment for their families. Yeah. So it's going to be a challenge in winter, more so than it was in summer, to communicate these things, get all the information out to our guests in advance, get them to buy as much as we can prior to showing up, and then stop them from congregating in groups.
So let's actually then move to that piece around communications. And I heard you say a couple of things within there, Greg. One you mentioned, net new guests, right? So what we've seen this summer, not just within the ski industry, but within the bike industry, is that the population as a whole is really interested in being outdoors. Bike sales were absolutely off the hook this summer. If we take a lesson from that, we might actually expect that this winter is going to be not only a lot. Demand might be higher than supply at all ski resorts, but it also might be a lot of net new people. So I'll open it to any of the three of you, but how do you think about communications? How do you think about maybe some segmentation around the net new guests versus pass holders, those sorts of things, or even personalization within that?
I'll go. You really need to segment everybody by the product that they did. You communicate to the season pass holders way different than you do to the very, very first time.
Yeah.
If I sent five emails about get ready for your day at the resort to a season pass holder, they'd get angry and be in my office. So but the brand new guest, we've always tried to go ahead and put on the website, bring this, wear this. We still have people showing up in high heels to go tubing, and have to rent them snow boots. I don't think they read. I think this year what we're going to try to do differently is with those beginners is really try to do videos. We're going to be staging some videos, and if somebody bought a first time family lesson, friends and family lesson, that they basically will get a video. This is where you need to arrive at the resort. This is what you should be wearing. This is what you can expect, that you'll go through this, and actually do it as a video, because usually what happens, they get to the resort and they're looking around and they have, okay, where do I go next? And then that's where all this interaction with our employees is going to be. And that's what we want to avoid. I think I don't know if I said it when we last talked, but I think our biggest fear is that one of our employees in one of our departments gets COVID, and then everybody has to, for 14 days, go ahead and not be there. That to me is the scariest part of this whole winter.
Yeah.
So the more we can keep everybody separated and in their own lanes, and know where they're going before they get there, I think is going to be really, really key.
Yep. Scott or Greg, how do you guys think about just the initial communications piece, segmentation, personalization?
Go for it. Yeah, so think about it, and what we'll really be able to operationalize this winter are kind of two different things. But our goal is always to do the whole same thing. Barb just talked about the marketing cliches, right? To hit the right people with the right message at the right time on the right channel. And
Yep.
I'm excited about the partnership with Ascent360 because really improving our ability to reach people on the omni-channel. Message. I mean, some people email works great, but a lot of people it doesn't. So finding them online, whether it's sending or text message, all the things, no matter what we do before they arrive or to try and reach them before they arrive, there's going to be people that just climbed out from a pile of coat hangers, which I think was a Homer Simpson, if I'm remembering right. Somehow didn't realize there's a global pandemic, didn't figure it out in the last 6 months, then show up not realizing there might be some changes, and maybe haven't even visited the resort in the first place, and or just show up completely disoriented. We still have to deal with those people.
Yeah.
Greg's solution there with the scannable QR code, I mean, we're going to have those too. So we'll try and reach them before they get here. We pray that we can reach as many, as high a percentage as we possibly can on whatever channel we have to, empower them to come in well-informed and do what they need to do. But we recognize that at the end of the day, a lot of people are going to show up with just way less information than we want them to. And then it really comes down to signage around the resort and moving around the resort properly. And hopefully our pass holders and staff being able to help them efficiently and safely move around the resort.
Scott, do you think you're going to have to turn any of those guests away, or what's your plan if the volumes are real with people just showing up?
Yeah, I think we're still awaiting final guidance from the state of Vermont, so I'll hide behind that for now. I guess that we're really grateful we have the RFID gate technology from last winter because we have a much stronger understanding of our season pass holder visitation. Without that, it's extremely hard to forecast. We were always just guessing how many pass holders showed up on a Saturday, POW-filled morning, for example, or a holiday weekend. And you always know your ticket visitors, but so we'll manage that if we have to. Our hope is that we won't have to restrict pass holders. They're really our bread and butter here. I know every resort needs to make the right strategic decisions for themselves. We plan to manage it through lift ticket sales to the extent we can. And we are considering things like the 4-hour lift ticket, considering, no announcement here. But we're considering all the things with capacities.
With regard to the 4-hour lift ticket, a question actually did just come in on that. And the question largely is how are you kind of managing and monitoring that ticket that the guest actually does leave, or will they just stay on the upper slopes if they can?
So we have 4-hour lift tickets, and all of our lifts have RFID.
Right.
Our lift ticket starts when you get your first lift ride. That way you don't get your guests coming in going at, I had an accident on the way and I didn't get here till 10, and even though they bought an 8-hour ticket. So we have blocks, 8 to 12 is a certain price, then 12 to 4 is a certain price, and then we're open till 9 is another price, another set of dynamic pricing. If somebody bought the most expensive one, which is the morning, because that's when usually everybody comes, and they don't show up till 1, they'll still get 4 hours.
Right.
So we're not really advertising that. We're just, when they get to the resort, it's going to be one of those things where you go, when they're all upset, I wasn't there on time, and don't worry about it. Your lift, it doesn't start until you get on the lift, and then they smile. I mean, it's one of those good messages that you can send out to people. I mean, if you put it on their website, then they get. Then everybody will start to come right at that 11 o'clock hour again. I mean, our marketplaces had that 4-hour tickets before. Some of our competitors have done it. They just haven't done it where, your ticket doesn't start until you get on the lift. So they have people at the lifts, checking the tickets.
Well, it's actually great that those gates really will foster, I think, a pretty good customer experience within that 4-hour window, and you've kind of proven that you can do it as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the gates and the reloading, whether it's ski data or access, we're up to 25% of the people reload their ticket online and go right to the lift. So, and that, every year that keeps on going up 5-10%. I mean, I think this year it's going to go way up. So our ticket becomes, like a loyalty card. Keep this ticket, reload it. You can use it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And skip the pickup boxes, skip any kind of lines is what we basically say.
Yep.
But Scott, I mean, one of the things that is going to be really tough for us, and I don't know about everybody else's software, but it's the food and beverage. And we're trying to do things like food trucks, because then they can queue up outside. We're trying to do order online. We invested in software for food and beverage, so that people can order, on the go and then have it ready, pick up. It gives you the time about when it's going to be able to be picked up. We're rolling out this year.
That's great.
We're just trying to take everything as much as we can, as we have the excuse for COVID.
Yep.
Oh, we had to do this because of COVID. So I'm a big technology person, and it's like I always was got backlash from everybody. Why do you need to change this? We liked it the way it was. We liked being able to talk to the ticket lady. It's just every year. This year we have a very good reason why we should automate almost everything.
Well, it really does seem that this is an opportunity for the industry as a whole to move, steps and steps forward from a tech perspective in all those things you're talking about. Yep. Food and beverage, things that have probably been around in some other travel hospitality for a long time, right? Nobody shows Yep. up to a Marriott and says how much is a room, yeah. Right? That Yep. really.
Those booking engines have been around for a while, and I was just at Chick-fil-A. I don't know if that's across the country, but they basically you stay in your car. The person has an iPad. She swipes it right there on the iPad, and you go around the car, and you pick it up at the pickup window. It's like there's ways for us to do this and still make food and beverage dollars if we make it very easy and safe for the guests.
Yeah. So Greg, I'd love you to jump in a little bit on the communications piece, right? How are you communicating with guests? Okay. Maybe, and Barb mentioned automations as well. Do you plan to have pre-stay, pre-arrival sort of streams, things like that?
We the first challenge that we had to communicate, the first issue we needed to communicate when this started happening back in March was our COVID policies and our refund policies. That was the first challenge. We had people booked for spring, and we were now closed. We only closed a few days early, but we still had to get that information out there. So we built a COVID policy section in our website that we are constantly updating. And it links out to the New Mexico Department of Health, and it will link out to other resources so people can find the information they need and understand what restrictions New Mexico has as a state.
Yeah.
That's been sort of our reference point that we refer back to. And then the one good thing, I guess it is, we being far from a metro area, we are primarily a destination area. So people are buying lodging from us as part of their package. And we have great open rates on our pre-arrival emails. We send out a confirmation email as soon as they reserve, and they get an email 2 weeks out. Then they get another email three or 4 days out. And we run about 80-85% open rate on those emails.
Yeah.
like Barb says, I don't know if they're reading, but at least they're clicking. So we're trying to convey as much information as we can there. We are also working on a video, like others have mentioned. Jackson Hole's done a very good one. A bunch of resorts have them. And they're just, happy people, welcoming guests back, talking about what their resorts are going to do. We'll get those done. We'll post that on social. We'll get that on our website. We'll include it in our pre-arrival emails, and we'll push that messaging out as much as possible to try to educate the people prior to getting here. But yeah, our pinch points, and we've had some success in this summer because we do operate some restaurants for food and beverage in the summer, and we were at a point where we could have no inside dining. Then now we're at 25% inside dining. So how do you accommodate those people? Well, we put all our restaurants on Talk, which is a restaurant app for ordering, and you can even, we actually built in to-go and delivery service from our nice restaurant at the country club, so people could get a to-go prime rib dinner. And we actually did well with that. Our RV resort guests were doing a lot of the to-go delivery food, and that helped us with placing orders in advance, doing the credit card transaction in advance, so everything's just, you hand them a bag when they show up with as little contact as possible. And that's sort of how we've been operating our food and beverage. But our numbers in the summer are nowhere near what they are in the winter. We have a lot more skiers here than we do bike riders or golfers. So now it's going to be, how do you do that with a larger mass? How do you get that information out to them that while you're here, please check out Talk for ordering your food. We can deliver it to your hotel room, your condo. It can be waiting for you when you come off the slope. How can we do these things to accommodate them in their schedules? But yeah, the challenge is communicating it.
Greg, how did you do that in the summer? And I'm guessing that emails, if someone's on mountain, email's not the perfect solution. SMS maybe, but the degree to which people have robust SMS programs is probably slim. How were people finding out about Talk, as an example?
A lot of it was signage, and then unfortunately, it comes back to the face-to-face communication between employees and guests. Mm-hmm. While we're trying to limit those exposure points as much as possible, there's a certain point where they want to talk to you face to face. We actually did. We started selling some winter products. We put our 4- and 6-pack products on sale, and we went to an event in Albuquerque a few weeks ago, and that it's usually done by a ski retailer down there that brings in all the resorts from New Mexico. Purgatory will come down, Wolf Creek's there, Monarch, Southern Colorado resorts are there. This year, the resorts said they were going to show up. They sent out emails saying they were going to be there. When the sale came, it was Angel Fire only. There were 3 people from our resort speaking on behalf of 10 different ski areas, and basically getting hammered by guests on behalf of other areas' communications programs. Vail announces they're going to reservations only. They're calling Angel Fire going, are you going to reservations only? No, it's that churn we get from the big guys. Ski Santa Fe announced they were doing reservations only. They've since backed off on it.
Yeah.
But when we were in Albuquerque, people were coming up and go, are you going to be like Santa Fe? It's like, well, no. We're 3 hours from here. We don't get overwhelmed on weekends. We don't foresee having to restrict numbers at this point, but please, any resort you visit their websites, do your research, know before you go this year more than any other time. And a lot of those people came away, you could see it, the relief on their face. You could actually say, oh, we talked to someone in person finally.
Yeah.
We have someone we can believe, because we don't believe their email. We don't believe their website. We don't believe them when we call on the phone, but when they're in person, we believe them maybe. So it's interesting. it's going to be a big challenge. Communication people have got a lot of work this year. But
That's why I think video is so important, Greg, because they're going to believe the video.
Yeah.
They're not going to read
I agree.
The mail. But they'll watch the video, especially if it's got, some fun things in it and it's a little bit of humor and
So,
or a little bit of nostalgia or whatever you want to kind of throw it to make it a little interest.
You can't educate them without entertaining them, I think, at this point.
That's very well said.
that actually leads, I think, well into a question that was just asked, which is, how are you managing sales messaging versus COVID messaging? Are you blending the two together? How do we even think about sales messaging this year, right? It's probably not, come to Angel Fire, right? It's not, try to push people as in the same sort of volumes as you had in the past. So can you guys speak to a little bit of how you think about those two different types of messaging?
I'll say
Go
the
ahead.
sales messaging for us is real soft. We're not shouting from the rooftops.
Yep.
We're not going out there with lowest prices of the season. We're not going out there with those immediacy sells that we've done in the past. It's not about the deadlines. It's not about the buy now sort of attitude that we've had in sales. We've softened that message a lot. And in front of that actual sales message, we've tried to position the fact that we've had a successful operating summer. We've provided these services. We're looking forward to inviting you back this winter. These are the steps we're taking to make sure you're confident in visiting Angel Fire this winter. But the sales message is a lot softer this year.
Yep.
For
us. Same with us. We've always been on the sales and marketing side of past sales and stuff like that. We definitely took a different approach this year. That was, it really started with something that kind of covers what Barb and Greg were just talking about as well as, while we recognize we're trying to limit over-the-counter interactions, we certainly recognize that changing so quickly is going to be hard for a lot of people, and they do like that human conversation, even if they've already read even if they did read what we're going to tell them over the phone. So we've actually added a call center to try and address that. It was something we did in the spring to call a lot of our season pass holders that suddenly had the lifts turned off, and we learned how powerful that was. So now we have a call center for, even if they're on resort, trying to push people to make a quick phone call rather than going and standing in a line at congested areas, over the counter, that sort of thing. So our sales and marketing messaging, we're going to continue to do some of that traditional stuff, human, empathetic, certainly very empathetic calls to our pass holders in March and April, and learned a lot from our best guests that way. But as far as when we talk about sales here, we're usually talking about our group business, and that's certainly been altered. But generally speaking, our sales department doesn't have the biggest marketing thrust behind them because, as a medium resort with a small hotel and only so much indoor space, he's always trying to fit the groups in, and on weekends and stuff like that, weekdays is less of an issue. So this winter, his messaging, unfortunately, you can only promise so much in this environment. So, we could book a group and then the state of Vermont could, for good reason, make a change to policies. So we're pretty much educating our groups the same way we're trying to educate the transient visitors that hey, we're going to do everything we can. We need you to do everything you can to help us. And everything is subject to change right now. Here in the state of Vermont, things change weekly. And we don't have control over that. If the governor tells us, so we're going to be reactive, and we're going to do our best to continue to communicate that out. But, cross-state travel restrictions will be tough for groups. And so we're messaging all that to educate and empower everyone, and then just ask everyone to be agile with us, and we're going to move and shake as quick as we can as things unfold this winter.
Yeah, I think Greg actually mentioned that they've got a kind of a central COVID portal on their website that they keep updating, and I'm wondering, Scott and Barb, are you doing something similar where there's a place that people can get to and just keep understanding what's actually happening?
Yeah, we'll be doing exactly the same with a QR code sign on site and everything.
Yep. Yeah, I just want to add a couple other thoughts. We're an outdoor sport. COVID is not as effective or as contagious outdoors. We're a family sport. This is something that, you know, you can do with your cohorts that you've already, and still stay pretty safe because we have lots of acres. You know, go back to the whole NSAA piece that speaks to the guests. There's some great words in there, and I think, you know, we haven't gone out with our, you know, 3-pack and our 6-pack and, you know, we're cheaper than you are kind of stuff either. We're going out with this message that this is a fun, safe sport to do with your cohorts. And, you know,
yeah.
and as part of that, if you're really nervous about how we're doing for you know, how we're handling our the COVID situation, here's all the things we've done. Here's all the things we're doing differently this year.
Yep. And maybe we could talk a little bit about just channels for all of that, right? So I know we've been talking a little bit about email and web, but one of the questions just came through, are you doing any sort of online chat? Scott, I know you mentioned a call center. Maybe Barb, you could kick us off. Just what sort of channels are you thinking about how to communicate to guests this winter?
Yeah, we've been doing online chat now for, I think, almost 4 years. You can even set it up with bots. I mean, our sales manager has gotten really, really good at, you know, giving our people that do chat the canned response. So, you know, you basically have something that's written out that's really nice, and you know, you can measure how effective that is with chat. It's a great tool. It cut our call center from 12 people in our call center on a Thursday, Friday down to 3. So
wow.
Yeah, it really, I mean, the phone traffic went totally away. People like chat because I mean, sometimes they'll call just, I mean, sometimes people will chat just to chat. So you know, it's amazing. It's fun to actually do it for a couple of days in a row. You go, oh my goodness, they have no clue about things, do they? Yeah, so I definitely you know, call center chat. You know, like Scott, I mean, our sales has always been focused more on the group stuff, but that's, you know, we've just recently gotten that call center and sales together, you know, in the last year or two, that they're all under one umbrella to try to mix both the group sales and the sales all together, as opposed to guest services, which is, I've got a guest sitting there and they've got a question or they need to know where to go, and yeah, I think they're two different animals.
Yeah. Greg or Scott, any thoughts on some of the channel ideas, right? With, you know, I think Greg, maybe you mentioned this earlier, that you're not going to get everybody via email, right? You know, maybe 40 to 70% is a number you can think about. So how in the world do you talk to that other 30 to 50%?
We're trying other channels. We're expanding upon our texting program.
Yeah.
We've dabbled in it with parents for children's lessons and things like that. So we're looking at getting numbers from all in-house guests so we can communicate with them via text. The open rate on text is a lot higher than email. So we're trying to develop those new channels. Our call center, I like what Barb said about chat, because my goal right now is, how do I expand the call center? I've got more calls coming in, and maybe the chat is the answer, especially if you've got some of those canned responses during your high times. You can keep it with live operators. That could be a big help for us. So thanks, Barb.
Well, yeah, and then you got to consider that if somebody gets sick in your call center, your whole call center has to stay home for 14 days. I mean, what do you know? It's like, you got it. Those are my nightmares. It's like, it's so important we don't get any of our employees sick. You know, it just, just is so important.
Our call center smelled like Lysol and bleach for the last 8 months.
Yeah.
They're really good down there.
So there's been a lot of questions around the tech stack in all of this, and I know each of you have mentioned some of these things. And I think, Barb, at one point you told me you've got maybe 22 or something different technologies at work.
Yeah.
Can you all maybe speak through some of the technologies that are helping you with this? I know you mentioned Talk, and I know we've talked a little bit about the different gate technologies. Let's jump in there and dig in a little bit on tech.
I'll just throw out the latest one that we've gone down is a software called Acuity. And what it does is we have a fairly large racing program with our kids, race team, and they all want to go ahead and get their boots and their skis and their brand new skis, and it basically, what it does is it does a reservation. It basically says, okay, here's the available time slots that you can go, and then people go ahead and sign up. And so you already have everybody kind of scheduled on their time. It's saved us with wedding bookings. It's saved us with, we used to have a person that all they did was try to do that traffic. I missed the call. I got a call back to go ahead and schedule for somebody to come in and take a look at the venue. And it all went away. It all went away with this software. I mean, there's some, and that's $25 a month.
Right.
There's some software out there that, it doesn't talk with, your RTP, Seriousware, InTouch software, but it helps. It helps. So we've been trying to institute some of those best of breed kind of software. I'll just go one other point on the software. I made the decision last year, this was even before COVID, that I wanted our food and beverage to have a food and beverage software. Yep. And I wanted our retail to have a retail software, because retail and food and beverage softwares that are out there, they know that part of the business very well. I know we went light speed for our retail, and having an online store with it. Very easy integration. Toast so far with our food and beverage, the same thing. So the downside is you might have some back office accounting that people are going to have to get used to sharing flat files back and forth, but that is all kind of worth it to give the software tools that your team needs for what they do. I mean, they know retail better than I do, and they know what they need. And so we had been starting that in March, even before COVID. February, we were just gonna go ahead and get best of breed for this stuff. So.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, we just went through a huge process on that, and I think there is no one size fits all. Like, Barb found the right solution for her, and there's a million technological solutions out there. And as most of the people on this call probably know, like, the ski industry has just, we're a lot of businesses in one. I mean, sounds like Barb is similar to Bolton. I mean, we have 5, 6, 7, depending on the time of year, food outlets going at one time. We've got rental shop, we got a retail shop, we got a ski school that does after school programs, the Burton Chill program, whom we adore, all sorts of other, partners like that, plus the season, transient lessons. And you have, we sell lift tickets. We sell season passes. We're getting into mountain biking. We do disc golf. It's like a million. Got a sports center, and a hotel property. Any one of those is its own business. And to get those to communicate efficiently, and then even with your customer database, in our case, Ascent360, to have that all be seamless is really challenging. For us, when we undertook this process, I think it's important to look at the long view here. These things take time. And anyone that expects they can just solve these problems overnight, they're just have tremendously wrong expectations. And and I actually come from a little bit of a tech background, so I'm pretty new to the outdoor industry just 2 years ago. And was pretty blown away by kind of what the native ski industry stack looked like, and seemed a little out of touch with where our customers' sophistication with buying online is. I think we can do a better job of meeting them where their normal consumer behavior actually is. They don't go stand at a counter to book a hotel room. They don't go stand at a counter to buy a flight, you know. They're pretty savvy online shoppers. So for us, it started with a list of our goals, and they weren't goals for COVID. They were goals that, okay, if there's suddenly more pressure on these for COVID, we hope we can get them done. We think we're on track. We're going to get it done. But it was really like, what's our master tech plan for the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? What are the long-term goals? And some of those got prioritized very quickly by the pandemic. But really, you got to start with what's the functionality you need, what experience you're trying to deliver, and then go out there and interview all the vendors and try and get them to integrate. And yeah, there's a million scenarios.
Communication. Communication is just part of that. I mean, to automate, you know, you can go right now and you can go look into your customer database, and you can try to go ahead and pull it out by yourself and put it in you know, what you want to do is you want to automate that process of someone going into your customer database and pulling out the information you need and automate the emails. And you know, I think that's what Ascent360 does best. I think when I was out at A-Base, and you know, I was there, I bought the ticket the day before, unfortunately, because it wasn't cheap at all. But you know, I got an email thank for the purchase. As soon as I left, I got another email like, how was your day? And you know, by the way, here's the weather for the next 7 days. You know, all of a sudden I was having a conversation with them, and I felt like I belonged to the community already.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Ascent360 brings to the table. So
yeah, it's got to be said also, Barb, that those type of messages are the ones that people read, right? With almost any automated message, post-stay, pre-stay, pre-arrival, post-purchase, all of that, you know, looks like 60 to maybe 80% open rates. If we just send them a, hey, here's our COVID update, you're going to get 22% of people to open it, and that's not even enough to get the message out. And Greg, I know that there is actually a question in the queue for you around what text messaging platform you use, but maybe you could jump in on some of the tech stack stuff. Oh, you're on mute. Well, still can't hear you. Let me see if I can unmute you.
Sorry, technology. I answered the question online, but it's
okay,
we are using for the texting platform is Contact Wireless out of Albuquerque.
Yeah.
And I had used them previously up at Purgatory, so they understand how to communicate with ski customers.
Awesome. Great. So I know we've got a presentation a little bit that we're going to talk about best practices, but let's keep digging in a little bit. And that is maybe we could talk about like what guest feedback has looked like so far, right? We've already got some feedback, and I'm guessing it's ranged from everything from angry that you guys have done something that they don't like to maybe very, very grateful. I was actually talking to someone who said that they believe that really good COVID messaging is going to be a competitive differentiator, right? People actually want to go to a mountain that they see it's being handled well, right? These guys have it together and they know what they're doing. Can you guys speak a little bit to how you see just the guest feedback so far?
I mean, I'll speak to it. I mean, I think if you don't follow the protocols and you don't have all those things in place, you'll get creamed in social media. At any time when we've seen the social media complaining that people had to wear masks when they first came out, you'd get 5 or 6 other people saying they were glad that we were following safe practices. So it's really in your operational execution, I think, in terms of making sure all your employees are doing that, making sure people are 6 feet apart, and making sure everybody has their masks on where you require masks.
Yeah.
People appreciate it, and season pass holders, like my director of the mountain biking and retail rental area basically said, their regulars will go ahead and police this for us too.
Right.
If we communicate and we tell them why, and so far I don't think anybody during the summer, they've appreciated that we require masks in line while they're waiting for the chair for the mountain biking.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Scott, what about you? What's the guest feedback been so far?
Yeah, I would say overwhelmingly positive for what we've done this summer, mostly events and opening up the mountain bike trails. Certainly we're all passionate about what we do. So sometimes the loudest, angriest comment online or email or phone or any interaction that's really upset about changes that we've been really, that are really just pretty much no-brainers to make, or were forced, dictated down from the state. There's certainly been some people that have, we've gotten some negative feedback about why did this change, why did that change, but overwhelmingly, I would say, I think we're pretty lucky in a couple of ways, and I imagine Greg and Barb share this. First and foremost, our pass holders, our most regular guests are just we're really lucky. We have great guests. I think any marketing person would say that, but I truly mean it. They're and they do care about this place, and they do try to help. They want the ski season to happen. We're motivated by the same end result here. So, we've gotten mostly positive feedback, and they recognize like how challenging this is. And anytime we make the right step, like, hey, we're limiting this indoor space, we're moving this outside, we needed to do this. Generally, they're like, well done. Yeah, great. That's awesome. Okay. That said, we're going to have that challenge. Change is hard. We're going to get it's going to be a challenging first month or so. I will say the changes we've introduced in the last few years since Victoria's took back over, and I've been here only just 2 years, there's been a lot of changes here. And I think there's a lot of fear about change when a place has been sort of operating with a certain expectation for a long time, and you introduce a lot of new stuff that can be scary for the guests and your coworkers, the employees who've been here a while. And I will say time and time again, the gates were a big scary thing last winter, and the guests adopted very quickly. And I think that's going to happen this December when resorts start opening and operating. People need to keep distancing. They need to wear face coverings. They need to do all the things they've been doing at our resorts all summer that have given us a little bolster of confidence. That's not to say I wasn't terrified in June and July with our first mountain biking demo and event, and all the things we had to do and all the red tape, but 10 events later outside, successful, knock on wood, we're ready, and we just need our guests to do the best they can to help us. We're all in this together. Truly, it's a cliche, but yeah, we need everyone's help. We need everyone's help, or it's not going to work.
Greg, can you speak a little bit to feedback you're getting from guests? Whoops, still on mute.
Ours has been very positive. When we first opened the bike park in June and the golf course in June, it was kind of overwhelming, the positive response we saw. And then based on the numbers of returning guests and record summer volume for all those activities, it's been very good. And as they've seen us do things to try to go with the punches, so to speak, and provide the products, even though there's regulation around us, they've been very supportive. The things that we have done, they've thanked us for. And we haven't had a lot of belligerent, people that have complained about restrictions or inconveniences to the operation that we now have, or having to fill out a waiver online. You have a few of them, but it's not the core guests that we'll see, the outdoor enthusiasts that we see for biking and skiing. Those people, they're coming here to get outside and to recreate. And they're happy that we're doing our best to provide for them so they can get outside and recreate. So it's been very positive.
That's awesome. So with that, Greg, why don't we move to the presentation, which is all about the best practices. And a lot of the things I think we've said here today are in there. There are some others as well that are a little bit beyond that. But let's kind of dig into that all together. So what are the some of the communication best practices that we've seen working with clients across the globe, as well as all of our ski clients with regard to COVID reopening. And I think at least one to talk about is frequency, right? And that is talk with your guests a little more than you might in a normal world. They actually do want to hear you. They want to be reassured. They want to know that what they're doing, you've got their kind of safety and safety of their family in mind. And with that personalization and segmentation, and I know that one of the questions that just came out was this, and it was effectively someone was asking, hey, isn't personalization more important than ever? I would probably say yes. And I'd love to hear from the panel, but I'd love to talk through a couple, kind of personalization notes, right? Brand new guests, right? Those folks, they really, just the high heels question. I actually remember helping push a Pontiac Sunbird out of the way on Berthoud Pass, and the guy who was driving the car couldn't push it out of the way because he was wearing business shoes, like literally zero traction whatsoever. And these are just flat out new guests. Kids lessons, right? How's that actually happening? Like, our school groups coming in, are we gonna? What are we doing with those things? I'd also love to hear from the panel on how they're actually thinking about communicating with kids themselves. I know most of our resorts have a either under 13, under 16, or under 18 restriction that they don't even email those people. Are you thinking about changing that, right? A 15-year-old seems like they may, they can read email and they may want to know. And then finally, maybe just a question around heavy hitters, like the guests who have skied last year 65 times, or the one who somehow made it out 90 days. What are you doing there? These are probably the most loyal people. These are the people who love you, and they might have a tough year. So could you guys and maybe Scott start us off here? Just talk a little bit about this personalization stuff and how you think about some of these segments.
Yeah, I think probably like all resorts, you try and do as much as you can, as best you can, and we'd like to do all these things. I think the key for us is setting up our automations as best we can with based on purchases for new guests, especially. We recognize like those that aren't already in our database, aren't already following us on social media. They may not be getting any of this messaging so far, and the first time we might engage with them is when they book a rental in a month, or a ski lesson, or whatever it is. So new guests are key. I mean, hopefully they purchase in advance. They figure out that they should. If they don't, then the challenge remains getting them when they're here. And if they're not already in our database. With kids, we kind of recognize, under 18's email is probably not the best holistically to reach them anyway, but it's pretty much opt-in, with some privacy, all the privacy considerations built in. But generally we're dealing with parents. We really try and empower the parents, because we want the parents to kind of set the kids up for success. It's kind of the agreement we have with them.
Yeah.
And then the heavy hitters, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Heather on your team, Scott, is what is it? 80% of your business comes from your top 20%. I think is fair as I like the 7 times easier to keep a customer happy than to find a new one.
Yeah.
So we focus on the low hanging fruit. We focus on our best. Use whatever marketing metric you like to measure that, our FM score or whatever, net promoter score, and the heavy hitters, certainly it gets back to that custom messaging. And frankly, our message to them right now is, hey, help us out. Like, you want to get in those days, right? And as we get closer to the season, the Stoke will return. We know it will. I think, the customers are similarly just like, I made this purchase. I want to get in those days. They're a little scared that it's going to be impacted. And we're feeling pretty confident that it's going to be an amazing season, and we're going to be able to deliver safe and fun and without overbearing restrictions. So we think it'll take care of itself once the season starts. But yeah, getting to that flow in December could be pretty painful. And there's going to be a lot of messaging between now and then. And I think we're all going to wake up in early January and be having a great season.
Let's hope so.
Then it'll get a lot easier.
Barb, Greg, anything you guys want to say about this, or should I go to the next best practice?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's identifying the product and creating the message, and you know, the only heavy hitters that we started with anybody who has Get Gates, we started a leaderboard. They do it in all the fitness centers.
Yeah.
They seem to enjoy it, and actually they tell us when our gates are down because they're upset because they're not being counted right now. So yeah, but it's stuff like that. We gotta. I think Greg said it very, very well. We are entertainers as well as operators, and the more we can put entertainment into our messages and into our way we communicate with people, I think the better off we're going to be.
Awesome. All right, so a couple others, and we talked a lot about this, right? Automate message streams, right? If you can set them up now, get them ready to go, when you open, all of this communication just gets easier, right? You don't need to keep kind of attacking it again and again. The human resource perspective goes down substantially. Also, concise messaging. I got to tell you, I probably received 150 emails from my kids' school district that were 9 to 11 pages each. They often had videos, and I'm not kidding, a video that was about an hour and 10 minutes. And, I wasn't going to watch 3 minutes of it, let alone an hour and 10 minutes of it. And everyone's laughing because I'm guessing you've all experienced it as well. We do recommend that COVID block in all messaging, right? Just have a block in there that takes you to that COVID central page on your website. Also, and I know, Barb, you actually talked a fair amount about this, but just consider the guest visit, right? That do it in the order that their mind is working in, right? That first you got to purchase, then how the heck do you get there? Once you get there, where do you park? Once you park, where do you go from there? If the kids' ski school is on the east side, make sure they know that, right? So that they're parking in the right lot and all those sorts of things. A couple other things when we talked about this, or Scott did, and I've actually been, Greg, I know you've got a COVID area that I was at this morning, but a single location we think is really, really critical. I'd love to ask the team this: how are you training your customer-facing employees? Are you using that central repository to walk people through that? Are you training them beyond their line of business, right? The food and beverage people, do they know what the safety protocols are for ski school?
I mean, I'll talk to that. And we had maybe it was 2 years ago, we had mandatory training for everybody, and they had to go for a whole day, and they had to go to all the department heads who put on some training and basically told them about their departments. I think, I mean, it was an expensive proposition. I think with this technology, I don't know how everybody else is planning to do their training and onboarding, but again, that's another whole thing that we have taken, onto Zoom, and went with Paycom this year. And everybody has to do their own HR paperwork. There isn't, going into HR, it's all done through their phone. I think it's real important to continue that training, because you're going to have people wandering, and everybody needs to know where everything is. So it's probably going to be, watch this video. and somebody's going to be walking through all these departments and explaining what's going on, and we're going to make it on their employee file if they had to say that they watched the video. But you know, I think these town halls and doing things like this with employees and giving them the option to sign into these not only shows who's a committed employee. I mean, maybe if you don't even pay for them, but just so that they're informed, you'll have 20 or 30% of your employees who just love the mountains so much that they'll sign into whatever you're going to tell them, and then they'll pass it on. You know, word of mouth still's there.
Yeah. All right. So another thing here is just data collection, and be mindful of what you're collecting. And in our recommendation, it's don't over collect, right? Don't ask people hundreds of questions, but ask them the things that you've got a plan for using. I think if there's any silver lining in all of this, it probably will be that we will have some real ability to collect nearly 100% of guest data, and that is going to help our businesses in the long run. And I see you guys nodding with that as well. It's also, you know, we spoke about this as well, and maybe Greg, you brought it up, that this omni-channel approach is important. You know, email is by far the least expensive, but you're only going to talk to so many people. Do consider the targeted social, right? Push your guests into a Facebook custom audience. You know, consider all of the other options. And, you know, Greg, you showed us the QR code that, you know, if you're going to want to talk to everybody, let's figure out how to talk to more. But one thing that is worth discussing, and don't take this as legal advice. This is from the Ascent lawyer, and it's very worth contemplating. But it really is COVID messaging. Do you need to only send that to people who are subscribed? And the answer is no. Right? That, you know, and I put a lot here. It's from a message from our lawyer, but it is more or less that you can consider some of these safety messages to be transactional under CAN-SPAM, right? So you don't actually need to even include a unsubscribe option, and you can send these messages to people who are unsubscribed. I say this, and I'm glad we're talking about this in October, because this isn't the easiest thing to do. Right, all of the tools, Ascent tools, the email tool that you use is built to manage around this process, right? That you don't want to inadvertently send to people who are unsubscribed, but there are ways to do it. So start thinking about it. There is a rule, and I think it's called the 20% rule or something like that, and it's within CAN-SPAM that says if the message, more than 20% of it becomes sales or marketing, you're all of a sudden, no matter what you're saying, it becomes a marketing message, not a transactional message. So consider that as well. You know, get some legal advice from your own attorney. We think ours is good, but he may not be saying the right stuff. So just a big caveat there. So then finally, and I'd love to hear from the panel on this, and you know, we're running out of time very quickly. We've only got a few minutes left. Please do consider SMS or on-mountain messaging, right? So if someone's on the mountain, send them something. It's also probably true that Wi-Fi may start getting overwhelmed on mountains. This is a little bit controversial, but we've talked to mountains who are going to be kind of tracking data about individuals who don't follow the rules. So first of all, when someone shows up for the first time and doesn't have a ticket, doesn't have a reservation, you know, they're probably, with the mountains we've talked to, they will have a way to buy a ticket there. They don't want to send them away, but do you want to sell it to them for the 5th time or the 7th time or whatever that might be? Scott, I think you actually had a plan around this, and I apologize if you didn't. Do you have any commentary around your thinking here?
No, we're still in development on a few of the more innovative ideas. Yeah, we have a strong desire to really just empower every guest we can, to have all the information. One of the big challenges you hit on there was like, we're going to hire hundreds of employees in the next month to 2 months for the seasonal employment, and empowering all our employees to know everything that's going on across the resort and all our different business outlets and all the different new COVID compliance stuff, in addition to them training for their job and getting their hiring paperwork in and all the things they're going to have to do.
Scott, you're giving me a headache.
I know. I mean, getting snow tires or whatever they have to do to get up our access road in the winter on a POW day. It's a lot. And so we are considering any innovative idea to alleviate some of that, to reach people who we don't think have gotten any of this information, because we want them to get the answer as efficiently as possible once they arrive on the mountain. It's basically the short answer, and know where to go and know how to interact safely and get what they want. And when they leave, also be empowered with like, hey, next time this could be easier. You got the card, reload it. We even put a QR code on it, scan the card and reload it. But yeah, on that messaging, the new things, the geofencings and the SMS and we're reviewing a lot of creative things right now, but I don't know what we'll have deployed in time.
Great. So Barb, Greg, any final thoughts as we kind of finish this hour-and-a-half webinar?
Yeah. Go ahead, Barb. Ladies first.
Okay. Just let's everybody play for that white stuff to come down everywhere. That'll help us all, I think, no matter what. So.
Awesome. Greg?
For us, it's been constant change. It's about sort of staying on the balls of your feet, being aware of what the state's doing, being aware of what other states are doing around you. For an example, New Mexico has a regulation that if you come from another state that's a red state, Texas, for example, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks or the length of your stay. Well, they do a real good job of communicating that you have to quarantine for 2 weeks, and it scares a lot of people off. But or the length of your stay also will allow you a little room there to communicate a little softer message to guests. But stay on top of the changes that are happening with your governments, with your states, with your health departments, and be ready to communicate those changes to your guests on all your channels as timely as you can.
That's great. All right. Well, this has been a great hour and a half together. I very much appreciate all of your time and just the thoughts and energy that goes into these things. Earl, why don't I hand it back off to you for some parting words?
Well, first off is thank you to all of our panel, Scott and Barb and Greg, for being so generous with your time. This was absolutely fantastic. The amount of questions and the quality of the responses was amazing. The discussion was awesome. And Scott Belter, thank you for moderating. I know it takes a fair bit of work to pull these together, and I really appreciate your support and Ascent360 support for this kind of session. Just a quick reminder to the audience, this will be recorded or has been recorded, and it'll be available up on NSAA.org. Obviously, we didn't get to each and every question that was asked, but take a look through the previous webinars that we've hosted. Some of your questions may be answered in those. There's a ton of that information on NSAA.org, in addition to the winter playbook, the A to Z document that covers many of the operational departments that we didn't necessarily talk about directly today. But one last thank you to the panel, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you as well.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye now.
Take care.